Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. This video will deal with my recent dreamlike trip to California, San Luis Obispo, to meet Tennis Warehouse and play at that iconic green court. I met loads of interesting people. Some people I met before, Chris, Michelle, it was nice to meet Troy, Tiffany, the whole legend team there. Mark, you've seen their videos, I'm sure, if you watched Tennis Nerd a bunch. Tennis Warehouse videos are legendary by now. But the whole trip started earlier than that. I went to Los Angeles, flew 12.5 hours from Madrid. Had a bit of an interesting start to my journey because I took a train to Madrid and that train derailed due to the crazy rains we had over that period. So I had to sit 3 hours on a train, then kind of climb onto another train with the luggage. Before I got to Madrid, quite a lot delayed. And then I slept the night there, went on that long 12.5 hour flight. Not sure I can recommend Iberia for long flights because the space was very tight and I paid for economy premium. Obviously a long trip, but you're kind of running on adrenaline. And I had a couple of really nice days there. I can really recommend staying at the Huntley in Santa Monica. When you're flying this way from Europe to LA, obviously you're jet lagged, you're 9 hours ahead in your head, but 9 hours behind on the clock, so you're struggling a little bit. And obviously when you're out in the sun, you're playing tennis, you're generally feeling better about things. One of those recommendations I have for you guys traveling is to exercise, go to the gym at the hotel. I had Eric bring me a yoga mat. Eric is a saint. He's a super nice guy as well from Tourline, one of the nice guys I hung out with. He actually picked me up the first day. We drove over to some training courts at the training center for the USTA, and we met with Karu who's been on my podcast numerous times. I'm sure you're watching his videos. They're excellent, and he's doing really well. He's like ranked 260 something in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And I hope to have him on the podcast again soon to talk about his amazing season, because he really has shown that you can get back into tennis, and if you have the talent and the understanding of tennis, he's really shown that he can make waves on the tour. So we'll see how he does next year. We talked a bit about rackets, got to try the new Pure Drive. He has been a bit on and off about whether to continue with the Percept 100D or get like an Aero 98 or something else to give him a bit more pop. But it's a risky business to change a racket in the middle of a season, and also when you're doing well, like to change up things might not be the right medicine. So we'll see what he does for next year. But it was fun to meet him. We didn't get to hit any balls. He was just in the middle of a training session. I had just arrived, so that's a shame, but maybe next time. It was fun to see him play against some really talented juniors from the USTA training programs. Pretty impressive stuff, like 14-year-olds who were like hitting the ball like crazy. So big thanks to Eric overall, because he drove me around there. I had my own car, but he took me to some cool places. It's nice to get someone to tour you around LA, and they don't only make great strings, but they're really nice people, the Tourline guys. Then after meeting Karu, it was straight over to Beverly Hills Tennis Club to meet Wilson and try some prototype rackets, some blacked out frames. Michael and Rodrigo were really nice hosts, took care of me. They hit a great ball. I was not really ready to play tennis with my jet lag, but I really enjoyed playing with them. Rodrigo has trained with Roger Federer. Michael, he plays with Tommy Haas when he's in town, so these guys can play. They're D1 college players and really nice guys to talk to as well. And we have some videos coming up. You might have seen the one where Rodrigo talks about his work with Roger on the new RF bags, but I will also have Michael go through the Wilson collection and talk about the new frame that's coming, but I will wait until January to reveal that video. But there's more materials coming from this trip. So super nice club, Beverly Hills Tennis Club. Not a cheap one to become a member of, a long waiting list, but it's fun to see these types of places. So that was day one, just a really epic packed day, some food in the evening. I also had the fortune to meet fellow content creators and people who've been on my podcast. Gil Gross, super nice guys. We had some nice sushi together. Talked about tennis, of course, and he knows a lot about the game, and we could talk about it for hours. It was a super fun dinner there. Had a coffee with Eliza. Her voice is definitely getting stronger and stronger in the sport, so that was nice too. The next day, Eric picked me up, drove me over to the Peninsula Tennis Club. What a beautiful club by the ocean. Nice courts. It's a bit of a drive out of LA, but it was great to hit some balls with Eric, who's a very good player himself. XD1. Tested some prototype string, a very interesting hybrid string. Not the whole setup, but a string to be put into hybrids that I hope they release onto market, because this string I really enjoyed. and I felt like it worked well in the drive 98 and in the arrow 98. So that's what we tested. I got to play with this Dunlop CV 3.0 F, the racket that allegedly Max Purcell and Jack Draper is using, and that frame actually hit a nice ball. I really enjoyed playing with this racket. A bit surprisingly, I don't think Eric was a huge fan, but I enjoyed it, and we had lots of fun playing there. Then we went for the In-N-Out Burger, some Phil's Coffee, stuff you have to do when you're in the West Coast there. So really great day. Before the tennis, I met up with Craig Shapiro, who's been on my podcast as well. He has a great podcast of his own where he interviews pros and important voices in tennis. So check out the Craig Shapiro podcast. We had breakfast together with John Neater, who runs the Santa Monica Tennis Center and now also Pickleball Center, where there are 4 pickleball courts in the backyard of this very, very central location in LA. And you could really see the interest in pickleball. I asked him about paddles, how it is compared to tennis, since he was a very strong tennis player back in the day and coach. And to compare and see differences, not in an antagonistic way, but to really understand what brings pickleball customers, how are they different from tennis customers. And I've done a video about that that's going to be published on the second Tennis Nerd channel, where I have a bit more freedom to publish maybe paddle, pickleball, or whatever I want to do. Because if I publish it on this channel, maybe it will just tank the channel, or you will get pissed off and unsubscribe. And then we had some excellent breakfast with some pancakes. So the next day, I got to play some dingles at the Malibu Racket Club. You've probably already seen this video. Thanks to Sarah for arranging this. Sarah, myself, and Eric, we also had a nice sushi dinner in the evening. Great way to finish the LA part of the trip. I then drove over to towards Santa Barbara, but I stopped in Ventura because I was invited by fellow tennis nerd Jeremy to play some tennis, and I can't say no to tennis. Hello tennis nerds, it's Jeremy.
Hey guys.
Super nice guy. He invited me to come to this really nice club, Pierpont, in
Ventura, just off the water, halfway between Santa Barbara and LA.
I had to play more tennis, and we stopped at the Pierpont Tennis Club there. A beautiful club. Had a nice session. Tried the Pure Drive 98, Aero 98. He actually played with the Pure Drive 107, which is an interesting choice. Actually quite nice feeling frame. Good session, really nice guy. People in the US tend to be very welcoming. I love the vibe there. And after that, I drove over to Santa Barbara, where I had more tennis booked. This time with Taylor Goggins, who is the founder of Shroomy, mushroom coffee. They also do other stuff that I've tried and I really liked. There's an interview with him coming up as well about the brand, but also about his tennis, because he's the city champion and used to play D1 and has a massive serve. So it was quite fascinating to play against him. Also met Phil, who has become a friend of mine. He's involved in Tourline. He's the father of the co-founder there. And super nice guy, very interested in tennis. We had a nice Chinese dinner. He knows his wines as well, has some really nice wine collection. So great guy. That was a nice way to end that day after the long drive. 2 tennis sessions. Then the next day, it was time to go up all the way to San Luis Obispo and meet the rest of the content people invited to this super review, this cool week together with Tennis Warehouse at their headquarters. And a 2 hours drive approx from Santa Barbara. I love driving there, so it was not a problem. Not like the traffic in LA, which can give you some hives, but this was just overall like a beautiful drive. And I got there, we had lunch together. I've met a few of these people before, Grace, Aaron, people working at Tennis Warehouse. They seem to find a really nice group of people to hire, because I really enjoy dealing with them, working with them. They're easygoing, they're relaxed, it's just a good vibe there when you get to the office. And I must say, I think maybe if you followed my posts on Instagram and my stories, that we had a great vibe as a team together, content creators. It's not always the case, you know, sometimes you see eye to eye because you play tennis, but you're not maybe getting along super well. But in our case, we were really lucky. It was just an awesome group to be with. You know Beckett already from Tencom. He's been on my podcast. Zach, the foot doctor, also been on my podcast. Met Neya, who's a really interesting person. Very sweet, very bright, good player as well. Who's more of an influencer, I would say, compared to the rest of us, because she has a large following also following her daily activities, while we're more like tennis testers and product people. Will was there from Tennis Tribe, double specialist, works with some top doubles teams. He really knows doubles well, also on the podcast. And then we had Delaney, who is an ex-D1, but very recently ex-D1 player, who works now as a personal trainer and still plays very, very high level tennis. Also super sweet, nice person, easygoing. It was all there. Like, we had a great chemistry as a group. nice for dinners and drinks. And together with the Tennis Warehouse team, it was just overall a great trip. I think the people make the trip. I really enjoyed my time overall, even alone in California. But I think the people is what makes it extra special. And everyone I've met over this trip has been super nice, and I really enjoyed hanging out with them. Part of the purpose of this trip was to test gear. We tried the new Pure Drives, we tried some new shoes from Adidas, from Asics. I also tried some new T-Fights, some new E-Zones. So a bunch of new rackets, and reviews are coming of those products. Got to play on that iconic green court in the warehouse. That was pretty cool. Met all the guys you've seen in multiple videos over the years. Jason, Mark Booney, Tiffany, Brittany, Chris, and Michelle, of course. Nice ball strikers, but most importantly, really nice people. We even played some pickleball together.
It's officially changed from tennis nerd to pickle nerd. What do you have to say about this?
But mainly it was a lot of hitting tennis balls, and you must give the Tennis Warehouse team props because they take their production really seriously. They always bring like a serious camera team, really pro guys dealing with all this, making sure their videos sound and look great, especially these like super reviews, which is what they call them when they also invite other reviewers and content creators in on their reviews. I've been a part of a few, the Gravity, the Barricade, and I've always enjoyed it because I think it's also a social thing. It adds a little bit extra to your life and enjoyment as a reviewer, because it can be a bit tedious when you're always on your own trying to figure things out. I always try to invite people to my reviews and to do them with more people than just me, but overall you're doing a lot of work yourself in front of this very computer that I'm talking to right now. So that is what makes a trip like this so enjoyable. So you can expect lots of reviews, lots of content coming up. Products I've tested during this trip, I'm gonna test them more in depth as well. We had 4 or 5 days together, I think it was. Got to see lots of the surroundings, wine tasting, good food, and nice company. It was all there before I had to go 4 hours back to LAX and fly the 12.5 hours back to Spain. But overall, just a great trip spent with some excellent people. I would love to go back and do the same over again. But back to reality, back to editing videos in my home and enjoying the process, of course, of that. But yeah, this was a bit of a fairy tale trip. Started a bit ominously with a derailed train and some rain. And I also had a really pretty rough trip back. But it was all worth it. Have a nice day now, and don't forget to play some tennis.